All right, this should be a pretty quick lesson. Absolute value is not a difficult concept to learn. It is something that you don't see very often. So, we'll learn it now, and then come time you take possibly the EOG, you'll have forgotten it because we don't do it very often. But it's really not a hard concept at all. So I really hope you can remember how to solve these problems. But it is called absolute value. And as you can tell, the definition says the distance away a number is from 0. So in other words, if I'm standing on 7, how far away is 7 from 0? Okay, you're always starting at 0. You're trying to figure out how far away it is. I put how many jumps. And you're going to hear me say that a gazillion times because to me, it really helps clarify things. And what I mean by that is distance cannot be negative. Okay. Even if I jump backwards, I've still jumped. I've still gone somewhere. Okay. So when I say it as jumps, hopefully you can better understand. Okay, I'm jumping, I'm going somewhere, I'm moving. It can't be negative. Okay. And the reason that's important is absolute value is going to be a positive number. Okay. There's only one instance where it's going to be negative, but we'll talk about that in a little while. So if I say, what's the absolute value of 13? Okay. Well, in other words, if you're standing on 0, how many times do you have to jump before you land on 13? Okay. And there should be 13. So the absolute value of 13 is 13. If I asked you what's the absolute value of -4? So if you're standing on 0, how many times do you have to jump to get to -4? You would say 4. Okay. Because if you're standing on 0, it takes me 4 jumps to get to -4. I didn't take -4 jumps because that's not possible. You can't jump a negative number of times. Okay. So the absolute value of -8 would be 8 because it took me 8 jumps to get there. Okay. We show it by this right here. Okay. These bars right here. They're called absolute value bars. Okay. That's simple. All right. So these two lines right here, they're not just lines that somebody messed up on. They're absolute value bars. And you would read this by saying, what is the absolute value of 3? So that's how you read that. So in other words, if you open up your test and you just see this right here, there could be no words whatsoever on the paper. All you would need to know is what's the absolute value of 3? How many jumps does it take to get to 3 from 0, which is 3? Okay. Let's look at some examples. All right. So this is saying what's the absolute value of 9? Okay. So if I'm standing on 0, how many times do I have to jump before I get to 9? 1, 2, 3, 4, and you keep going until you land on 9. So the absolute value of 9 is 9. Just like that. Next one. Absolute value of -15. So if I'm standing on 0, how many times do I have to jump before I get to -15? I have to make 15 jumps before I get there. Okay. So absolute value and opposites are not the same thing at all. Okay. I told you when we did our other lesson that opposites, you're always going to have one positive and one negative. All right. Because they're opposites. All right. Absolute value is not the same thing. For example, here, both these numbers are positive, and that's the right answer. Okay. So absolute value is talking about how many jumps it takes. Jumps can't be negative. Okay. Whether you jump backwards or forwards, you're still jumping. It's still a positive number. All right. So please don't confuse absolute value and opposites. Let's look at another one. Okay. This one looks a little more funky. The question says, what's the absolute value of 6? Then we got this negative on the outside. Now, this might seem silly to you, but here's how I always teach this. Think of this as your house. These lines is your house. I can control what goes on inside my house. I can control any negativity. If there's any negativity inside my house, I can get rid of it and make it positive because I have control over it. So if it's going on inside of my house, I can get rid of it. It's gone. Now it's positive. Okay? But this negative is outside of my house. This negative is outside in the real world where I have no control over what other people do, what other people say. So I can't control it. So this negative being out here, I can't take it away. So yes, this number in here, absolute value of 6, it would stay 6. But since this negative is on the outside of my house, I can't control it. I can't take it away. It has to come with me. Okay? Another way I like to say it, hope I'm not offending anybody, I don't like Lady Gaga's music. Okay? So inside my house, I'm not going to allow Lady Gaga, which I can control. I can control what music I listen to inside of my house. But as soon as I step outside into the real world, I have no control what's on the radio. I have no control what other people listen to. I have no control what I hear coming through somebody else's car. So Lady Gaga might be everywhere. I have no control over that. So unfortunately, when I step outside, Lady Gaga has to come with me. Okay? So if you have a negative on the outside, it's going to come with you in your answer because you can't get rid of it. It's not inside your house. You can't get rid of it. All right? Let me show you another one. Negative absolute value of 11. Okay, so once again, if you're just looking in the house, the absolute value of 11 is 11 because it took me 11 jumps to get there. But once again, Lady Gaga's out here. I can't get rid of her. So she has to come with me in my answer. So it's going to stay a negative 11. When you have a negative on the outside, that's the only time your absolute value answers will be negative. If you have a negative on the inside, remember, you can get rid of it. I can get rid of Lady Gaga in my house, so I can take her away. But when Lady Gaga's on the outside, she has to come with me because I can't get rid of her. Okay? What if it looks like this? Okay? So once again, take care of what's in your house first. Inside of my house, absolute value of negative 8. How many times do I have to jump until I get to negative 8? 8 jumps. It takes me 8 jumps to get there. Remember, I can get rid of the negative inside of my house. The Lady Gaga inside of my house is gone. Now it's positive. But remember, I can't get rid of this Lady Gaga out here. So she has to come with me to my answer and make it a negative. Okay? So my answer is not negative 8 because of this negative. My answer is negative 8 because of this negative out here. All right? One more. What if you have one like this? Absolute value of 20 plus absolute value of negative 7. Okay? Just do one at a time. What is the absolute value of 20? How many jumps does it take to get to 20 if you're starting at 0? It takes me 20 jumps. All right, same thing here. What's the absolute value of negative 7? How many times do I have to jump from 0 to get to negative 7? It takes me 7 jumps. Now I just solved this. 20 plus 7 is 27. All right, so the main things to take away from this lesson are talking about jumps. So jumps can't be negative. How many jumps it take to get somewhere? It's going to be a positive answer. Other thing to take away from this, the only time you can have a negative answer is when you've got a negative on the outside of your house. You can't control the negativity outside of the world in the real world, so that negative comes with you to your answer. All right?